Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who has finally, really, and truly listened to a Future album, I Never Liked You. Now, if this is your first time seeing a video of mine, I need to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of frame of reference for who I am, and why I have no frame of reference for Future. You see, between the years of 2002 and 2018, when I started this channel, I basically didn't listen to new music. Little bits here and there, but I was basically turned off. I was getting my doctorate, I was having a family, all that. So when I started up again in 2018, there's a lot of acts, a lot of artists I need to catch up on. And I think Future is probably the most important artist I have never talked about or seriously thought about. I teach a class on French rock and hip-hop music, and in that class, on the first day, I ask everybody, who's your favorite rap artist? And the number one answer, it used to be Drake for a small period of time, but for the most part, it's been Future. And I remember going back and listening to Future back in 2016, it must have been, and it'd be like, nope, don't like it. And then Donda 2 came out, and then I've been listening to so much hip-hop in the last couple of years, my mind is expanded, my palette has expanded, and hearing Donda 2 produced by Future, I really started to like what Future was able to bring. I was able to like his sound, I was able to tell the difference between Future and Gunna and Young Thug and Lil Yachty and Lil Gunna and Lil Thug, right? I'm speaking like an old person right now. I know all of the differences between them now. But when you're in your 40s and you grew up listening to Public Enemy and NWA and the Fat Boys, having rappers that sound like that, it was hard to distinguish who they were. And that's what I want to talk about before I even get into the review. This is a universal theme that I think is interesting. What is the experience of listening to a new sound? Okay? So for me, in 2016, listening to Future was a new sound. That kind of trap, mumble, melodic, rap music was new. In order to come to love something like that, what you require is a certain amount of flexibility. Now, I often frame that in the context of youth, but it's not always a question of youth. It's a question of mental flexibility. Can you hear something? Because the first time you hear a new sound, no matter what, there is an agitation. Like, your sense of what is and what isn't is agitated. I was agitated in 1997 when I heard OK Computer for the first time at midnight when it came out. I was agitated in a positive way and I loved it, but I was agitated. Just a few years later, I was agitated in the wrong way when Kid A came out. I would eventually come to love that too. So when you hear a new sound, the first reaction is agitation. The waters are muddied. The mud is muddied, right? So when you hear it, like that agitation, the older you get, the less flexible you are in your mind, the less likely you are to continue. You see, I think there are three reactions to new sounds, to new music. The first reaction is agitation, then there's the work, and then there's the assessment. You have to do that work after getting shocked. You have to do the work to figure out what is it about the sound that's new, what is it that you like, what is it that you don't like, and then at the end, you can make the assessment. But when you're not flexible, you're like a reed that doesn't blow in the wind. You just snap. You hear a new sound and you cannot adjust to it. This is usually associated with old age because the older you get, the more set in your ways you become. It's just a fact of life. You have to fight super hard to fight against it. But it doesn't only happen to the old. I'm going to tell you a story that's going to make you so mad at your old Professor Sky that you're just not going to believe it. It's 1996. Freshman year of college, like probably 2 days after Tupac was killed, 2 days after my birthday. So right around then, September 1996, I'm a freshman in college. And part of being a freshman in college is you're introduced to new music and new things, right? So I really liked my roommates, but they were very kind of like into like sex and drugs, and I wasn't into that stuff. And, they were just kind of wild, and we did have some crossover with our love of hip hop. And so I played some of my favorite hip-hop. I played King T's Act a Fool. And my roommate Josh was like, that's bad. That's old school. I was like, that's not old school. That's new school. And then he played me some music. And I heard it and I was like, what is this? Me and you, wabba-dubba-dub-dub-doo, dubba-dubba Cadillac. Who is this? This is garbage. Outcast? They didn't even spell outcast correctly. This is a joke. Southern rap. Oh, they can make hip hop music in Atlanta? The Delta Airlines place? What? I completely rejected Outkast when I first heard them. The entire freshman year, I completely rejected Outkast. I rejected Outkast for years until I actually shut up and listened. Because that initial agitation, this sound of Andre 3000 rapping and Big Boy rapping, that feeling was so unsettling that I did not have the flexibility. So what I think happens is when we have something new, and I even though I understand that I Never Liked You is not new Future. I understand it is very much in keeping with his style. It is not a revolution for him. But still, to this day, me, when I listen to Southern trap music, it is still somewhat new to me. The feelings are somewhat new. And the thing is, it can break good or it can break bad. If it breaks bad, and when I listen to this album, my aggravation is immediate. And I go, what are these boring drums? Like, no wonder so many rap artists are taking drums out of their music, because it's this boring trap beat over and over again. Doom, doom. Oh, an 808. Whoever heard that? The same song over and over and over again. And this guy isn't rapping. He's not even talking. His nickname is Pluto, and he can't even say the word Pluto. He said, Plo. You know, one of the things I do when I teach, a thing all French teachers do, is a thing called dictée, where you do dictation, where you have to read something out and then they have to spell it correctly, because the way words are sounded and the way they're spelled is quite difficult in French. If you had to do a dictée with Future, it would just be all vowels. It's just mumbling garbage, and he is saying nothing. There's no form whatsoever. It is just bleh. It is just bleh. But if it breaks good, and it braked good, excuse my English, that aggravation is immediately wiped out as you realize these beats are not necessarily about being individual works of greatness, but it is tied into that great big V word of modern music and culture, into the vibe. By the way, Nathan Zed, who's quite a good YouTuber, came out with an entire video about the concept of vibes, which I think is very useful. You know, he's younger than me, and I think it's the young people who need the vibes. I believe it is a reaction to the hyperstimulus that we live in. And this music, it is able to hit that trap vibe, an especially dark and foreboding vibe the whole way through. And he's not mumbling. Are you listening, Sky? Do you understand why he's called one of the best rappers of all time? And I'm not talking about because GQ magazine said he was. Like, he goes hard. He plays with languages. He doesn't just mispronounce words because he can't pronounce them because he's so high on codeine. It's because he's playing with language in a way that other rappers are incapable of doing. And he's capable of changing flows subtly, drastically. He's capable of singing with auto-tune. He's capable of singing without auto-tune. He's capable of doing all these things while the entire time you think he's not doing anything at all. That is my real assessment of this album. But that bad assessment, which maybe you're watching. You know, I put up a poll for what should I review next. A lot of people said, don't even bother with Future. It's just garbage. He gets too much attention as it is. Well, I need to for myself. Because I need to listen and understand what makes Future the person that is loved by Future fans. And get back to this idea of who Future is. Listen, I just reviewed the album by Fontaine's DC, and I said it might be the best album cover of the year. I think Black Country New Road maybe has the best album cover of the year. But this is definitely the best rap album cover of the year. This is up there. I would put this in the top 10 hip-hop album covers of all time. Just right off the bat. Okay? This image is so good. The title is so good. Because it's everything that is great, fascinating, and frustrating about Future. Not only is he asleep, probably because he's high on codeine, but he's also wearing eye shades, designer eye shades. He's in the back of what looks to be maybe a Maserati, some kind of very Bentley, who knows what. And he's impeccably dressed in purple, which of course ties into drinking lean, and purple is his color because that's the color of codeine-infected Sprite. But just this position, him just sleeping in the back of the car, It says so much about what he's able to do. To appear so effortless that people believe it. To seem so checked out of his own life that he's asleep on his album cover, and even if he's not asleep, he still can't see anything. It's also an amazing projection of power. He's completely vulnerable, okay? He's not sitting there, KRS-One style with the, looking out looking out the blinds with a gun, getting ready. He's not pointing a gun at you. He doesn't have his shooters on call. He's asleep and he can't see and he's in the back and he knows you're not going to do anything. Tied in with that is this album title, I Never Liked You, with these ambiguous pronouns. Who's I? Did Drake never like me? Or is it how he feels? That a lot of people never liked him. Like me, I never liked Future. But here we are, and I come to like his music. There is an emptiness, which I sense in Drake as well, who's on this album a couple times, that really seems to be the center of this album. And I think he's doing a lot with an empty soul. It's a really harsh thing to say. Those are not in my notes. Let me see if I want to be that strong. Not an empty soul, but empty spirit. Okay? I don't want to make this religious, but like his whole presentation is just that he has a lot of stuff that's worth a lot of money, but it's clearly not making him happy, and he has a lot of addictions, and he has a lot of money, but there's no, I don't get the sense of who he is. Like, who is he? He's a complete... He is asleep in the back of the car with eye shades on, and you're about to listen to him for an hour. There's one lyric which I think is the best example of this album. Now, if you know the album really well, I'll let you think. What's the one lyric I'm going to cite as the lyric of this album? Cleaning cars in the rain. That's the line. Presenting himself as cleaning cars. So he has all these cars. He talks about all these cars, all these watches, all these bags, all these drugs, and he's cleaning them in the rain. A completely futile gesture. An indication that he can't stop working. He can't stop thinking about his material wealth, but it is all for nothing. I Never Liked You. Do you know who I think I is and who you is? I think it's Future. I think both. When we get to the production of the album, this is my big issue. My big issue, always, is just I have a hard time listening to trap beats and hearing the difference. But fortunately, I take it as a challenge. What happens when you get older is something challenges you and you just say it's not worth learning because it's stupid and things were better in my day. Right? That's what you do. But instead, I have to hear the difference between Pierre Bourne and Metro Boomin and ATL Jacob. ATL Jacob, who does most of this album, along with Southside and a couple other producers and Wheezy. I have to try to figure out what do they bring differently. And it is a job of discernment which I am not very far on. Are you a better trap scholar than I am? Would you please tell me in the comments the best way to tell the difference between these producers? And don't tell me the producer tag. I know, the producer tag is the most useful thing. It's not a coincidence that the producer tag arrived, or was largely arrived, with trap beats because it's so hard to tell them apart. DJ Premier doesn't need to put a producer tag. Timbaland doesn't need to put a producer tag because you know when the hell DJ Premier is producing a track. Anyways. I also live with albums for a period of time, and this passed my kitchen test. Just listening to an album in the kitchen while cooking. I was making fried eggs for my children yesterday. I made it there with this chili oil. It's really good to put on eggs. It's like the spicy Chinese chili oil. You might have to go to like a Chinese grocery store. There's a couple different brands. I prefer Lee Kum Kee, but they don't sell that anymore at my local place. So it passes that test. I'll be talking more about condiments soon. So let's get to the album. I'm going to start with the first song, which I'm going to say is my stamp, my example song, my homework. Watch the song, listen to the song, so you get an idea of what it's called. 7:12 p.m. Produced by Wheezy, and it's just a story about his life and his money. But what I like about it is its weirdness. The production is a lot of weirdness in the production all the way throughout this album. High-pitched sounds, and his voice just comes in super strong along with these drums. And just like his ability to play with words and language and sounds. I'm going to read this not with a Future accent. I'm going to read this with a posh British accent. Sitting behind 5%, you can see the Chinane. Lil one going crazy, ready to spurt for the Ganang. If it wasn't for Google, man, that B-word wouldn't know my nickname. Now that's the way all the words come out. But the way they all come together, when he puts them together, I can't imitate. I couldn't imitate. You could put me on a deserted island for 10 years with this album. I wouldn't be able to produce the sounds he's able to produce. The timbre of his voice, the flow. Like the way the words all come together, it doesn't make sense. And that little, voice, little onomatopoeia of all these sounds all together. A different kind of snare, I think, on this 808 beat. And one thing that's, when you really pay attention, when you're doing that work before you get to assessment, when you're listening to new sounds, is he gets more impassioned as he goes. There's like weird chanting in the background, whiny kind of violins, and then just some more savage lyrics. You think an like me give an F about a shooting up the church. I gotta take this ish up with God because I'm a god on the earth. Just like wildly hard lyrics that again show that emptiness, which he's really trying to highlight. A lot of rappers sing about emptiness, but they draw more attention to it. He sort of presents it to you, and then you have to draw the conclusion. Stepped all in the mud, this B-word, can't wait to tie my shoelace. A very interesting line. The idea, he does have a not good relationship with women, I would say. A nice thing about hip-hop is that it is getting less misogynist. It is. It truly is. And there's a lot of reasons why. But I don't think Future got the memo. In particular, he's obsessed with the thematics of forcing girls to kiss each other, to be with him, which is a little bit tenuous when it comes to the concept of consent. And that's how he ends this song here. I don't know. I went back and listened to Dirty Sprite 2. That also has that theme all the way throughout. There's a weird sort of need. I think with Future, the thing that's really clear for him is that it's about control. And that's why the picture is so interesting of him in the back, because he's able to control while being just there. So it makes sense that when he talks about women, he really talks about controlling them. He doesn't really even talk about using them or exploiting them. It's more like how can he get them to do what he wants to do. Which, if we're being sympathetic, we're talking about somebody who grew up from the mud, as he talks about all the time, and felt like he had no control over his environment and is now trying to control it. If we're being not generous, we'd say he's a misogynist monster who's trying to control everybody around him. I don't know. I don't know the real guy. Next song is called I'm That N-Word. What's funny about this is it's got another one of those trap beats, another descending, and it's got this slightly ominous descending line, but you can actually sing the song Hit the Road Jack to this beat. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come around no more, no more, no more, no more. You could do that to this beat. It works perfectly. Seriously, try it. You'll really have fun. This time he has a slightly different flow, and this is, if you're not listening, if you're not paying attention, if you're just a bitter old man like I used to be, back before I got younger, there's like I wouldn't have even picked up that this flow is just slightly more frantic and his crazy sort of Christopher Walken delivery. Christopher Walken, when he gets a script, I don't know if it's true, he takes out all the punctuation, and that's why when he delivers his lines, they sound so weird. And that's how this is. It's just this like whole mess of incomprehensible slang and elision. Do my numbers, my coupe, it's a gadget, ripping that bird like a maniac. Like, what? And then he gets to the chorus, and he's totally sleepy. And that's another thing which Future, I don't know if he was the first to do it. Please tell me in the comments. I legitimately don't know. As you can tell by my initial reaction to Outkast, me and Southern rap, we have a long way to go. A long way to go. But the chorus is just him just being like, hold up, I'm hot. I'm not hot. And this whole sleepy theme does also remind me of a lion. So, lions are awake for like 4 hours a day. The rest of the time they're sleeping. And that's because when they're awake, they're hunting. So they have to rest, just like dogs. And my dogs are over there, they're sleeping all day. You never know when I'm going to stop giving them kibble and they have to go start attacking the deer, the fia in my backyard. Who knows? And to a certain extent, I think that's how the choruses work sometimes for Future, where there's just so much energy being put into these verses and this play and this attack that it makes sense that the chorus is just. But this song is so long. It adds like an extra verse at the end, and it seems like the song's over, and it's like he has to come back to say the following lyric. He has to come back. There's a cool like little stutter step to set up this line. And if you look, there's no way to see that he's not really trying to set up this line. Effort in the A to make her go pee-pee. Yeah. Again, it's about control. It's about what he can make her do. It's not about his pleasure. It's about his control. And it's gross. But then it goes out this kind of ha-ha chant on the 2s and the 4s. Coming up next is Keep It Burnin', produced by ATL Jacob with Kanye. This is like a reworking of the song from Donda 2 that takes out the awesome sample from Talking Heads. This is a funny trick. I still hear it. I still hear burning down the house in this song. They don't have to pay the Talking Heads in order to get the sample, because the sample's now in my head. And when I hear the song, I hear burning down the house. Kanye's verse is clear. Like you can hear, like it's produced as though he's a rap artist who's making an appearance on an album. Like on the Pusha T album, he was just... I thought it was intentional. I think it is. He's trying to do this sort of weird, rough-shod, unhewn style. But here it's very close. He quotes Tony Montana and then goes after Kamala Harris again. Pet theory. He's going after Kamala Harris because he thinks Joe Biden is going to die in office and he's going to be running against Kamala in 2024. I think that's my prediction. And it's a solid prediction. And then Future comes back with another flow where it goes up at the end of the line. Just so many layers in the production. ATL Jacob really is great here. And then Kanye's second verse is even better than his first. I have to say, Kanye is showing up for Future more than he showed up for Pusha. Maybe he just gave all of his attention with the beats for Pusha, but this verse, you don't want no tension, boy, you just want attention. I'm gonna pop up at your house if you pop up in my mentions. Just a funny line. Interesting line from Future at the end. Money like sage in my house, keep it burning. This idea, this really interesting idea, again, going to the emptiness of Future and this life that he's presenting, that money exists to be burned. Like you have to earn money to burn it. And what happens when you burn something? You're left with ashes. You're left with nothing. The way he says the line, raised by gangsters, prostitutes, and pimps, got stuck in my head. And I was just walking around the house, just going, prostitutes and pimps. I'd like, see my dogs, prostitutes and pimps. He just kept saying, prostitutes and pimps. It's funny. It's like, I imagine that happens, where his idiosyncratic pronunciation and plays with rhythm just leaves you with these little words just stuck in your head. Prostitutes and pimps. For a Nut, again, ATL Jacob featuring Gunna and Young Thug. Oh, look at your professor. I could tell which one was which. I could. That's how much work I've been doing on this channel. I could tell when it was Future, when it was Gunna, and when it was Young Thug. And if you're saying that's not impressive, you play him for your dad. Okay? You tell me, can your dad tell the difference between these three? It's tougher than you think. Great, cool details in the production, really kind of busy sounds, especially in the Gunna verse, like weird whistles all the time. Looks like a Mr. Banana Grabber, like whistler there. Considering the title, you'd expect it to be the most sexist song in the entire world, but it's not as sexist as you think up until you get to the Young Thug verse. The catchiest part of the album is the chorus, and it's, I boss a bee for a nut, and then he says, that little bitty watch cost me nothing, but I swear to God, you cannot make that out. If you were to do a dictée of this, the little bitty watch nut. Seriously, like that is actually clearer than the way he pronounced it. And this is not me laughing at it. This is not me making fun of it. This is me praising it. This is part of hip-hop's job. No, scratch that. It's part of art's job. Poetry's job is to take language and to see how far it can be stretched. Okay? the Jabberwocky and the Bandersnatch, we have to keep stretching language and seeing how far it can go. Whether it's the surrealists, or whether it's the modernists or the postmodernists, or it's trap rappers who come up with lines like "Da lo be wakana." Kick a pay in the way. This is Nell rap. It's absolutely wild. That is okay. That's a reference which no one will get. Tell me if you get the kick a pay in the way reference. That's a deep cut. Young Thug has just the worst. Put diamonds in her butt. It just, what a line. Like, I never thought that sweatshirt line off of Life of Pablo would be so influential, but this is very similar to that. And then he rhymes Hong Kong with Farrakhan while referring to eating semen. And it's just like, it's just the bizarreness of all this music and the thematics that we can talk about, like the leader of the Nation of Islam, like a very divisive and very important figure in African American history and in civil rights history and other histories as well, like being mixed up with like the word Hong Kong, and it's wild. Like that's one thing I will say that Southern rappers manage to do really well, is just create a very wild space. Next song is Puffin on Zooties, which is very super calm, more dynamics in his voice. That way that Future's able to build and decrease in intensity. Hey, I'm stretching language. Intensity. Nice kind of classical voice in the back. So much great production here. And this is where I came up with my line that I teased on Instagram yesterday, when the drum beats come in. Like, I didn't want the drum beats to come in. I don't always want the trap beats. I was trying to think, like, what are trap beats? Like, what function do they serve? And the image came to my head like a vision. Trap beats are like ketchup. Like, ketchup didn't always exist. But when it came into being, all of a sudden, like, eating French fries, eating potatoes, eating burgers had this added flavor to it. Like the kind of umami taste. That's kind of ineffable quality of a trap beat with those hi-hats and the booming bass and the 808, But the thing is, like, it just gets put everywhere. All of a sudden, it's not just on hamburgers. People put it on eggs. Thematics right here, okay? They put it on eggs. They put ketchup on steak. They put it on too many places. It is an amazing flavor. It is an amazing condiment, but it's not like a good drum beat or a good hip hop beat sort of is its own thing. Whereas trap beats, to me, the way I hear them, is they're just a condiment that goes on to accompany the French fries of the beat. Does that metaphor make sense? And so I think that's why this drumless trend is coming in, because we don't always need ketchup. Sometimes you can have steak. If you cook it right, you don't need that ketchup. And at a certain point, the prevalence of ketchup is a sign of a lack of taste, because you're not eating the food anymore. You're just eating the ketchup. You're just eating this bland sound bed of doom. So it's neither good nor bad. Ketchup is neither good nor bad. It's how it's used. But its ubiquity should be challenged. Every month I come out with a piece of merch that's only out for 1 month. That's my Trap Beats or Ketchup merch. I can't keep a straight face. I actually did that. You can go to my spring store and you can buy it for May only. Trap Beats or Ketchup. God damn, that feels cheap. I regret doing that. I regret doing that immediately. But I don't edit my videos. So don't buy the t-shirt. It's okay. No one buys my merch anyways. So we have a good beat. It's fine. It's good. I would have preferred it without the drums. I'd like to hear a version of this song without the drums. And then talking about puffing on Zooties. I got mixed up, and I thought Zooties is the name of that character in Rick and Morty who always wants to develop an app. It's actually called a Gluty. Zooty is just a laced joint. But there's this great verse where he just goes fast and slow. He's so capable of control his breath and cadence that it's really not about what he's singing or even how he's singing it, but like the way that he forms these words, it pushes them out of his mouth. Like I'm just going to show you the lyrics there. I copied the lyrics there, and I'm not going to read them to you because you see how irregular the lines are. And like some words get entire bars, other words get half a bar. He speeds up, he slows down. He's just so impressive with his ability to keep shifting around. Next track is called Gold Stacks. Cool kind of weird backward sound. The catch-up's a little too caked on here. The drums are a little bit too loud. I do like the theme about how much money he gets just for like walking around and meeting people. And then every once in a while, he lets in a little hint of what's going on. I'm a rich junkie. He calls himself that. I think he probably is. Throw some hundreds like ones, make a straight girl buy. Again, hey Future, there's no amount of money, there's no amount of watches, cars that will control the world to make you feel better. What I like about this vibe is that it's aggressive and sad, which is an interesting combination. Usually it's like aggressive and angry, but this is aggressive and sad, which, truth be told, is on most of the album, aggressive and sad. Wait For You, another ATL Jacob beat, and this has Thames, the singer, who I don't know very well, but wow. I mean, the way her voice is here, it sounds almost like a sample, not like she's singing live, but it reminds me favorably like of Dido's sample on the song Stand by Eminem, which the song is so ubiquitous now, but when that song came out, everyone was like, oh my God, what a way to use her voice. You know, like Dido was not big at all before that song came out. And this voice is just really beautiful. And it almost doesn't feel like it's at home here. You know, like we shouldn't have something so pure and beautiful and so clearly full of harmony and grace in this aggressive and sad, ketchup covered, vibey, aggressive music. I do like how Future seems to be singing a lot here. He's very clearly doing something for the radio. And of course, Drake comes on. He's very much for the radio. I already know. I'm going to be going to New York City at some point this summer. I already know I'm going to hear this song. You know, Hot 97 basically stopped playing any kind of hip hop that like I would have liked 10 years ago. It's basically all soft songs. You need to have these kinds of soft songs. And then Future starts his best verse of the song and then it fades out. Hey, give me back the verse. Love You Better, another ATL Jacob song here. And is this just him singing? Is there no auto-tune on here? Because it turns out he's actually a good R&B singer too. Like, he just knows how to sing R&B. He's like all sensitive, talking about loving his grandmother and falling out of love. And these cool kind of spooky sounds. And then it ends a little too quickly. And it sounds kind of half-baked. In a similar way, Massaging Me, where he kind of shifts back from this lover boy into more of a bad guy. Cool kind of backwards drum beat. Keyboards going on everywhere. Eventually some like dramatic sounds. ATL Jacob doing really well here. Dear rap artists, don't use the word spaghetti. Eminem did it. Okay? Arms is heavy, mom's spaghetti. Don't say she ready spaghetti. Future? Future, are you this guy? Are you this guy? Are you Mr. So Cool you can't even wake up for your own album? Because guys who are that cool don't say the words she ready spaghetti. Okay? She ready spaghetti is like a verse that a dad would make while cooking dinner. The spaghetti is ready. My wop is real fetty. Okay, like, all right. Goddamn, I shouldn't have said that either. I shouldn't have made the merch. I should not have said my wop is real fetty. But I do find the song interesting. He's talking about that he's getting a massage because he has so much money, which, again, he doesn't sell his, you know, what Drake does so well is he takes his emptiness and his sadness and his disaffected nature and just sells it to you and tells you all the time. But there's something so sad about the fact that he's only getting massage because he's rich. You know, because massage is tender. He's looking for closeness. He's looking for intimacy, right? Because that's the real trick, right? That's like the real joke about all this stuff, about all our entire culture. I'm not saying hip-hop culture, all culture, that we're so based on buying things and achieving that we don't realize that the only path to happiness, the only path to human happiness is human connection. That's it. It's like human connection. If you don't have that, you're miserable. The closest you can get is achievement. And then way down there is having stuff. You know? So if you have to achieve to have stuff, that's fine. And that's what hip-hop is about. Hip-hop, in general, when it's talking about money, it's about achieving so much that you have a lot of money. Right? It's not actually about the money. But in reality, what you really want is a human connection. And he's getting massaged because of the money. This also reminds me of the Paperboy song, Mucking, if you're a fan of Atlanta. Chickens is the next song with Wheezy. And I like how it starts off as kind of this sort of almost like a crunky chant with saying the word chickens on the 2 and the 4. Of course, he doesn't say chickens. I mean, how many syllables are there in the word chickens? Well, for Future, there's none. Chicken. Chicken. But I like the laid back feeling here. Very kind of sleepy. I like how the drums are a little bit more relaxed here. You can hear the regret in his voice. I was geeking, smashed on a catfish. I was leaning, stopped all the Xanax. I've been meaning to cut back on ecstasy. I've been thinking about finding an exit on the E-way. I know you can't catch me. Ain't got nowhere to go without pouring the toss up. Like the toss up, just talking about his addictions and how he's there. ESTG. I don't know how you say his name. Estg. Don't know. Has a very cool low-key sample. I really like how he interacts with Future on here. It is interesting that Kanye is the only real kind of back and forth rapper on this album, where it's like one verse, one verse, one verse, one verse. It turns out in my limited research that ESTG used to be a Canadian football player. He played professional football in Winnipeg. Did you? We Just Want to Get High, produced by ATL Jacob, and then also Southside, who I guess is a much more established producer for Future. Great swirling sounds, great trap bass, all that ketchup-y sound, and then some flute sounds, really kind of like menacing, talking more and more about how he can replace women. He says how he's in love with his money. Once again, happiness, human connection, money, doesn't have much to do with happiness. I do like how he changes his flow again. He had this whole thing where he ends the whole line with yeah, and then later he ends up with some going up high with screw, and then the song ends, and it ends too early. Next song is another Southside called Voodoo, featuring Kodak Black, and I'm annoyed. Okay, listen. I'm not Haitian, but I do study Haitian culture. Kodak Black is Haitian, so his experience is his experience. So my annoyance is nothing. But the way that he's talking about, the way that Kodak Black sings in the song about demons and devils, it seems as though he is positing voodoo as being a force of evil, sort of in comparison with the forces of good of Christianity. And that's fine. If that's how he experiences it, that's how he lives, that's fine. But I just don't, he can do what he wants to do. I am going to continue to emphasize this fact that voodoo is not evil. Voodoo is a religion that is as valid as Christianity, as Judaism, as Islam. It is just a religion. It is a hodgepodge religion created by a bunch of people who were uprooted from Africa and thrown into the Caribbean and had to figure out some kind of cohesive religious system. Okay? Don't use the word voodoo to mean weird. Okay? Unless you would do the same thing with Judaism or Christianity. Anyways. But what am I going to do? Call up, excuse me, Kodak? Your usage of the word voodoo is not good to Asian people. Okay. I will say I love Kodak Black. The more I listen to him, the more I like him. I understand he's a controversial character, but like he has this a cappella outro that's just really sweet. And he seems to do a lot of what Future does, but I think I might like the way Kodak does it more. That kind of stretching out language, being obscure, and being able to sing. The next song is probably my favorite song on the album, Holy Ghost, produced by ATL Jacob. It's got these great bells and machine sounds, almost like John Carpenter horror movies. Like the whole thing it's almost like horrorcore music with the synthesizers and the small modulations. I really like how his producer tag is like chopped up. So it's ATL Jacob, but it's like ATL. I just really like it. At a certain point, there's this choir that comes through, very dramatic and moving. It's like we're watching The Exorcist or The Omen, and all these things switch up all the time, and like these detuned sounds everywhere, and he's just rapping about his stuff and the emptiness of his life. And this is the song that has that line, cleaning all the cars in the rain because I got OCD, and just emphasizes how much he has and how little it means. The Way Things Going is the worst song on the album. It's not even close. It's just a pop track with this like, I don't know, it reminds me of The Way It Is, the posthumous song by Tupac, even just with the piano, even the fact that it has, those words in it. Again, just such a boring drum line. Just such a boring trap drum line. This is that problem with Ketchup. I do like, though, the breathless flow. So that's another flow that he has where he sounds like he's like running out of breath. Tom Ford suit and dress, them handing out my business, raised in the trenches, been in the trap since an infant. The way that he says that, it's like I don't know how he's even able to get all those words out. I'm on one is the next track. Strings and layers over a trap beat. This is Future at his funniest. He has most of his like one-liners. He seems less sad in this song. I don't know, I'm skinny, but my pockets are out of shape. It's kind of a funny line. And then, here's a line I don't ever say. Drake has the best verse on the album. Okay, maybe not. That could just be my misunderstanding of Southern rap, because Future has so many good verses on here. But I love Drake on this. When Drake is good, I think, is when he's really playing with his voice. So the way he starts, all my hoes rockin' Audemars, all my hoes rockin' Rollies Audemars Patek, like just that line, just like the way he's it's really cool. And he talks about busting down. I have to admit something. I don't know what it means to bust down. Like a watch. I don't know what it means. Can you tell me in the comments? After you like and subscribe, smash the like bucket, subscribe to my channel, and tell me what the hell does busting down mean? I mean, Jay-Z's been talking about it for like 25 years. I've never looked it up. I like how he says he hates being in his feelings. I don't know if that's a reference to a song, but just a great verse. He also switches his flow, talks a lot about sort of like Premier League soccer. Just a really, really great verse. Okay, it's not the best verse on the album because Future has so many great verses, but you know what it is? I think it's the standout verse. I think it's interesting that Kanye's second verse on his track and then Drake's second verse, like those are the verses that really stand out. I would say Future's general output on this album is better, but it kind of all blends together. The album ends with Back to the Basics with a cool warbled soul sample. And we got some chili oil on this beat. This isn't a trap beat. This isn't a ketchup beat. This is like a cool kind of old school 808, but a little bit more open. None of those boom, none of that. And then Future's verse is just so open. The way he raps. This might be the best verse on the album now that I think about it. Little quiet bits with weird sounds. He has this whole verse. Military money out the gutter, duck the popo. 3 strips, skirt, going solo. Having the time of my life with no photo. Can't show every gift you get to IG when you F a mogul. I DC sniped it and I hit it listening to Go-Go. I'ma make 'em lose count if they add up the total. After I F you, let me cry on your shoulder. So much going on there. So like not taking photos, he's living his life. He's not cataloging his life. He's saying he's having the time of his life. He's having the time of his life, everybody. He's just fine, thank you. Don't worry about Future. He's so happy. This is what it looks like when you're having the time of your life. And then I DC sniped it, referring to the DC snipers, listening to Go-Go, which is DC music, all kind of clever, all kind of funny. And then let me cry on your shoulder. Like, what? Like, that's basically this, like, huge call for tenderness. That tenderness which he's only getting because he has money. Ultimately, we see that he maybe is not as happy as he claims to be. So, also, I did listen to DS2. Many people suggested that I listen to DS2, and I did, and I really liked it. But also, it seems as though it's very similar to this. It seems as though his style has not gotten worse, nor has it developed a particular amount. I think it's all just great. I do think I like the production on DS2 more, but that's because I'm a little bit more used to Metro Booming. So these are my Patreons. They give me money to buy music. They also just make me do this crazy thing at every Saturday or Sunday, every weekend. Just look at all these people who are giving me money so I could buy music. There's some the new people down there, like Raul Ferrari and Cardi Latz and all them folks down there. Rudyville and Aaron Torres. So thank you. We got a new double LP over there, George Nutt. Props to you for that. So please continue to support my Patreon if you want. And don't buy my limited merch shirt, the ketchup thing. Don't encourage me. Because if you buy this shirt, I'm just going to do more stuff like this. And really, I need to be stopped. Okay. Until next time.